Welcome to Medical Intuition Illuminated, the podcast bringing light to the wisdom of the body. I'm your host, Laura Wise, a medical intuitive and psychic medium dedicated to helping you understand the subtle and layered ways your body communicates. Here, we explore the meeting point of intuition, physiology, and energy, approaching the body not as a puzzle to fix, but as a wise, expressive system that's always speaking. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not medical advice, and it does not replace professional healthcare, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take a minute and to invite you into a free gathering that I'm having next week on Friday, May 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And this is called the Body Listening Experience. And this 1 hour gathering is designed to be a place where you can start to experience somatic mediumship and how to tune into your own body and listen to the wisdom that it has, the messages that it has for you. So we'll be doing a little bit of learning in the beginning about how to tune into our bodies. And then the bulk of the class will be just focusing on a visualization where we walk through the different areas of the body and we do some body listening. So this is designed to be an experience where you can really sink in, turn your mics and cameras off, and really receive and tune into your body. And I would love to have you there. And if you can't make it live in person, go ahead and sign up anyways. You'll be sent the recording through your email afterwards. Really looking forward to having you there, and you can sign up through the link in my show notes. Okay, let's get into the episode. This episode contains a real medical intuition session. All participants are anonymous, and any identifying details have been edited out to protect privacy. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to start out with the disclaimer in that I'm not a licensed medical practitioner. And so we'll be talking about the body and things related to the different organ systems, but I'm not going to be diagnosing. I'm not going to be saying I can cure anything. I won't be typically talking about named conditions unless it's something that you bring up and you want to talk about the energy of. Along those lines, I will be sharing recommendations around kind of foods and supplements and practices that your body likes or doesn't like. And I do that all with a caveat that you check in with your own personal care team before making any changes to your routine. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. Before we get started, do I have your permission to read you and your energy and body today?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to start reaching out my energy to you, and I always start at the top of the head, and the first things that kind of come through are how your mind works and how you sometimes will receive intuitive information. The first thing that I'm seeing is just you have a very quick mind, very, very fast mind. You're a fast thinker, and you often are kind of like a couple steps ahead of where everybody else is, and you have to pause yourself to kind of let other people catch up because you're like already jumping to the next thing. Yeah, like they're showing me like a deer like hopping through the forest with that energy.
I love it.
Which is awesome. Yeah. And sometimes it's like and with yourself, even sometimes you have like so many thoughts at once, you have to like slow yourself down to be like, I need to think this one thought right now so I can finish what it is that I'm doing, instead of like jumping ahead with things. Yeah, they are showing me with that sometimes you can be a little bit out of your body and a little bit kind of spinny above your body with all of your thoughts. Does this make sense to you? And like getting
Sure.
back,
Yeah.
getting back into it can sometimes be, a practice that, yeah. And they said that you've done a lot of work around this, that this used to be a lot harder for you, but, they're pulling me into the ear canal, in particular. They're actually showing me a little bit of like ringing in the ears. Do you ever get kind of ear ringing or anything along those lines?
Like very occasionally, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're actually talking specifically like when it happens like that, it's more intuitive information than almost anything else. That's often how I get intuitive information is like
Mm.
my guides will show up and there'll be this like high pitched ringing noise. And they want to encourage you to kind of pause and look at what is going on or what you're thinking or everything as kind of like a listen, right? Listen.
Mhm.
Um, I do see a little bit of swelling in the lymph nodes right here, and tightness through the jaw as well, and a little bit of grinding as well. Do you ever do any teeth grinding? They're showing me action.
Um, maybe not that I
Okay,
know of, but
yeah. So I'm seeing some, and it's almost like you chew on your thoughts kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, so far I'm not seeing a ton of dryness, which is great because it's seeing more on the wet side. So they're pulling me down into neck. And I'm seeing tension, yeah, again, like on the front part of it. And they're also talking about a little bit of tightness within the throat and the throat chakra of just around monitoring your speech. Because again, your brain works so fast that sometimes you're like talk before you're ready to to say what it is that's coming out. And so there's a little bit of almost like holding of your voice that happens sometimes because of this. Does this make sense to you?
yeah, yeah, like uh I should slow down and
Well, it's almost
think,
like self-monitoring. Like you're doing
yeah,
a lot
like
of like whole like you want to like say the thing, but then you're like, "Oh, I just, I want to make sure that I'm
I want to say it
connected."
right.
Yeah. What?
Yeah,
You want to say it
exactly.
right. Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um something we need to work on. No. Um okay. Pulling me. So I am seeing a lot of tightness through this clavicle chest area and a lot of holding through that and tension. It almost feels like there was even some kind of injury in that area that there's tightness that is connected to it. And that could be through the shoulders or the back, but like this is where you're holding it. Does this make sense to you?
Shoulders.
Shoulder. Okay.
Yes.
And there was a lot of like nursing of that had to happen around that time. So it just like became tight through there, and there's a holding of like wanting to protect kind of just the whole system that happens. um yeah, and it's almost like you'll get like zingers of pain still through that shoulder.
Yeah.
Let
Yes.
me take a little more. Ooh, it was a gnarly injury. I'm just seeing like just like it was like tendons and like just all that really delicate, hard to heal tissues through
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Um,
Not an injury, an illness though,
an
um,
illness. Okay.
affecting my tendons in my shoulder and other
Ah,
stuff too. But yeah.
okay. But this is where this on the left shoulder is where it's really shown up for you a lot, or both.
Yes, it was both.
Okay.
But left right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that makes sense why it's going all through here as well, because it's just kind of all of that system.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just it's like the healing of those tissues is just can be really slow a lot of times and um
Mhm.
not complete almost is what I'm seeing. Um
Yes.
yeah. And it causes a little bit of like kind of protection in general of that whole area because you kind of like if you move too quickly, it like throws everything off and there's a lot of
Mhm.
limited movement through the shoulders and everything because of that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And they're also showing me that it leads you to a little bit of breath holding because of that kind of fear of just moving too quickly or like expansion in general feels really tight and hard to hold. So I'm seeing that through kind of the chest and the rib cage as well. Um, we'll look at skeletal in a minute because they are saying something a little bit about the degradation of the bone tissue as well, a little bit.
In the shoulder.
Just all over, like your skeletal system is a little bit
Mm.
um, just delicate, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, they're talking about there's some nerve pain that's associated with this as well. That's like through your nervous system that you almost feel like down your arms and
I did previously.
okay.
I don't. It's been a while, thankfully, since like the pain has radiated down my arm, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't ever know if it was like um nerve pain or like just radiating tendon pain and muscle pain, you know? So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of like both is what I'm seeing, is that some of it was, and just because there was like so much pain in different areas, there was just like so many signals happening that sometimes your body didn't know what was coming from where, right? With your
Hmm.
like processing it in your brain. Um okay, let me take a look into lung space. So I do see some grief energy in the lungs. Lungs govern the emotion of grief, and they're showing it kind of mostly in the middle is really the density that I see it as. And so when I see it in the bottom, that's like a very old grief. When I see it in the top, that's super fresh. And so in the middle, it's kind of telling me that this is something that is, it's not currently present, but it's like fairly recent, right? It's not super
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
And part of the grief is associated like the traditional like around a passing, but it's also like life grief and life weariness grief that is in your lungs
Yes.
as well. um and they're saying it kind of comes and goes, right? You have a relationship with this grief, and like you take it out and look at it sometimes and then kind of put it back in the box, as it were, but it does color a lot of your current like existence, right? And that it's just kind of this ever-present background noise. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately, yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank
So
you.
they are indicating that is something that we will work on in the healing portion. So we'll kind of just move some of that through and kind of talk about what that's related to when we get to that. Okay.
Hmm.
So I'll
Okay.
circle back around. Um, let me go into the heart space. And so you have a very complex heart, they're showing me, and they're showing the connection between that grief and those lungs with your heart, and how they kind of are talking to each other about this. And so there's a hesitancy to fully love and feel that passion about things because of that grief energy. Kind of there's a lot of fear around kind of those circumstances, and just a lot of it is kind of subconscious. But they're showing me like you tend to be like, when you love people, you're like all in, right? And this is like friends, family, romantic, whatever. You just like, here's my heart, like you are a person that I have picked, right? And you're just like here.
Hmm.
But there's been some times when that's been not reciprocated to the degree that you have put that out there for.
Hmm.
And so what's what they're showing me is you still have, they're showing it to me particularly on the right side. And so there's this kind of like, that's a beautiful way to be. I just want to say, to just like be fully loving like that, but there's a certain amount of kind of holding back that you've been doing in your heart space, because that's been created some really challenging conversations and experiences for you. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Hmm. Yes.
um you have a lot of self-love, though. I see that in yourself. Like, you've really come to a place where you understand yourself and accept yourself on a lot of levels, and that's been hard one. But it's hard when it's not kind of like reflected by the people back around you. That's the
Hmm.
hard part. Yeah. um and they are saying this is also something that we're going to work on in the healing portion, as well as kind of moving some of that energy through. So we'll circle back around and get more specifics at that time. So let me move into, so we want to take a look at kidneys, and they did indicate before the session that that was something that they really particularly wanted me to look at, is the kidneys and the adrenals. So kidneys are pretty good. They're like slightly dry, but they're not too bad. I feel like you do get pretty hydrated, and you run naturally kind of more on the wet side than the dry side. But the adrenals are just, they're just on, and they've been on for a really long time. And it's like you do all the things, you do like a lot of things to like kind of create calm environments for yourself, and it's just like things aren't, they just stay on, and there's almost nothing that you can do about it, it
Hmm.
feels like
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
right?
Like I don't
um
I've been focusing really hard on my health and trying to recover from an illness that I have been dealing with for a very long time. And a large part of that illness is extreme fatigue. And
Mm,
and so I've always, of course, like regular doctors are like, there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue. And I've always said, I have adrenal fatigue. And,
yeah.
and I have some kind of like alternative tests that I've done that indicate like that that's actually the case, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, so I quit my job at the end of January to like recover. Like, okay, now's my time to recover. And I
Mhm.
just, cause yeah, it's been so frustrating. I'm like, I don't know what to do to like get through the fatigue and get over this hump and just like be back to health, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, because it's like they're just it's like a switch almost that just they're just on, and they don't like come down from it because they're supposed to, they're like a regulation thing. They're supposed to spike when we have a situation to spike, and then they're like
Hmm.
supposed to kind of relax in, and it's just like they're just activated, and there's like it's not even like there's things in your life that are at this point that are causing them to spike.
Right.
They're just switched on. So I think that'll also be another thing we work on in the healing portion is the adrenals and looking at what kind of experiences might I switch them on to begin with, and then kind of moving some of that energy out um, to help them kind of rebalance a little bit. Um, they're talking about just that you have in your past there were a lot of like work situation career things that were extremely high stress that you had to really push through. And
Yes.
so, yeah, and just like yeah, just like kind of go go go, and they're they're just even the environments were just like really just high stress, important decisions to be made, and they needed to be made very quickly, and you're really good at it. But it's just kind of it's like it was even before that happened, but because your adrenals were activated in that way, it made you good at your job, right?
Yeah.
Because you were
Yeah.
already like there, you were already like, all right, let's go.
Right.
um
Right.
but now it's like your body is now kind of has been reacting to that, and now you're trying to kind of like be like, okay, actually maybe we
Yes.
don't need to live at that level.
Yes, and really like this is a large part of why I have like stopped doing certain things in my life because I realized that I was sacrificing my own health
Mm-hmm.
to do this thing that I really cared about and
Mm-hmm.
literally burning myself out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. And your body was like, hey, actually
yeah, you can't do this.
you can't
Yep.
do this. Yeah. Um, because I see that you got like a lot of satisfaction of it, and a lot of just like it just felt good to do what you were doing. You were good at it, and
Yeah.
you got a lot of reward from whatever those interactions were. And so it was really
Yes.
fulfilling in that way. But you're naturally a self-sacrificial person, right? Again, you like give people your heart, and you
Hmm.
gave this career your heart, like you gave it all of you. And for almost like it's almost like you forgot to take it back to you, right? You're
Yeah.
like, here is
Yes.
my blood, sweat, and tears, and like, actually,
Yes.
I need those.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, actually, wait, I don't feel well. Like, I can't keep doing this.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So we'll circle back around to those. Let me take a look at, yeah, because they also called out nervous system. So let me take a look at that. They're really showing me that like and they're bringing up thyroid in particular, and just that like it's gotten really dysregulated. Like all of your kind of hormone systems are just all over the place. Sleep is
Yeah.
like weird. It's like you get tired at the wrong times of day, and then at nighttime you're like wired and can't go to sleep, and like
Yes.
just all of your rhythms are super off. Um and like your body just doesn't know kind of what's supposed to be where when, right?
Hmm.
With that with nervous system. Yeah, and there's just kind of like again like wires crossed within the nervous system where you just get with these like random phantom pain things, and you're like, what even is this connected to? And then by the time you feel like you figured it out, it's like gone, or it's moved, or
Uh-huh.
um yeah, there's just a lot of signal stuff happening. um yeah, we'll look at that when we get to digestion about kind of some more stuff around diet. But because they're saying diet's been a big journey for you as well around kind of what you
Mhm.
should eat, what you shouldn't eat, what feels right. Okay, so let me take a look at pancreas. And I do see that puffy energy in pancreas that just it's like working so hard to kind of try to regulate these systems. It's kind of the pattern that I often will see within like autoimmune type situations. Is that what you do you have anything going on related to that?
It's not officially autoimmune, no. But I will tell you that when I finally figure out what was going on, and like it's like a really it's intense pathogens, but they
Mm,
could cause autoimmune disease.
hmm.
So yeah, when I finally figured out what was going on, my doctor was like, yeah, like if we don't get this under control, then like it could turn autoimmune. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
not there right
Okay.
now.
Right.
And hopefully it won't
Yeah.
ever be, but
Yeah.
yes, it could potentially turn to that.
That makes sense. Yeah, and autoimmune is like such a big bucket that they
Yeah.
put things into, right?
Mhm.
That it's more like just like a pattern within the body when they're like, we don't totally know what's going on. Um, and that so that makes sense that it's like, yeah, it's just that depletion that I'm seeing with it.
Mhm.
Let me look
Yeah, so that was actually really interesting when I was going through this whole journey of figuring out what was wrong, which is super scary because nobody could, no like typical conventional doctor could actually figure out what was wrong with me.
at-
But yeah, like so one of the things that turned up in all of my tests was that I had low pancreatic enzymes, so I couldn't digest protein and fat.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
lost like
Yeah.
20 pounds in six
Uh-huh.
weeks because of that.
Wow.
But all of it was
Okay.
due to pathogens.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I see in like your nervous system too, is like there's a little bit of degeneration of the myelination on all the sheaths of the nervous system, right?
Oh, huh.
And so that's fats and proteins, right? But
Mhm.
because you already kind of run, that's something I usually see in people that are a little drier, I would say, in their system. So I was kind of like not sure exactly what that was, like waiting to see what we saw in digestion, but that makes sense that, and it's not like super bad, but it is possibly why some of the wires get crossed is because they're just not able to travel down
hmm
the
So
nerves
it's,
the
yeah,
same
and
way.
it's been the pancreatic enzymes have corrected now that I've been treating the pathogens. And like
Yeah.
maybe they're not, like they were 10 years ago, but they're like still falling like within normal range right now. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So you're still rebuilding that
yeah,
those kind of parts of your body. Yeah, that makes
right.
sense. Um okay, let me take a look into digestion. Oh, no, they want to talk about liver first.
I
Yeah,
bet
I
they have a lot to
see.
say about that.
Yes, they do have a lot to say about liver. Liver has been through it. Liver
Uh-huh.
has worked real hard, and they're talking about like you did have to take like a lot of different drugs associated with this, like in pharmaceuticals to be able to process things. And so it's had to process a lot of things through with
Yes,
that.
yes.
And also just kind of like the what's going on with your blood cells and your body attacking itself and all of these things.
Yeah.
Also, it's just had to process with that. Um, so it's definitely been working hard. How are your iron levels?
That's so crazy that you brought that up because I was just looking back at some recent labs from about a month ago, and I was noticing that my ferritin is low,
Mm, mhm.
which is part of your iron transport system.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not, it's like borderline, but it really should be higher. And so, yeah, and then I think probably my iron is really low right now for a reason I'll tell you later. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because it feels like it's a little depleted.
yeah.
We'll see again when digestion when we look at that
Mhm.
and like how absorption is going because a lot of times that's connected to it. And with every like finding a good iron supplement is really really hard because it causes a lot of other things going on.
Yeah.
So
And they can be hard to digest, and you have to take it at the
mhm,
right time of day and all that stuff.
mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's really complex. So we also have to talk about governs the emotion of anger.
Hmm.
And we have to talk about your relationship with anger and your ability to transmute it into something that is more palatable. And that you're still kind of uncomfortable with your own personal anger in your body sometimes. And it really will turn into almost like, well, I don't have it as bad as someone else, or let's look at the bright side, or it turns into like sadness a lot of times.
Yes, it turns into sadness. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really seeing that. And it's like, and then it's no longer like anger in its pure form, which is a different thing. It's
Hmm.
like the sadness for some reason is easier for you to hold and more explainable and feels more acceptable. And it also feels like some of this is a family dynamic that you kind of grew up with. And
Yeah,
like
you're probably right. And it's also just like being a woman in America.
1000%. Yeah. And I will say, like, when I look at women's livers, like, there's almost always like a complex
Hmm.
relationship with anger because that's just how we're trained. Um, but it feels almost like, yeah, like outward anger was not as well received as sadness within your family dynamic. And so it was
Hmm.
like sadness, felt like it was something that could be done something about, whereas like anger was just like, oh, that's too big. That's too big.
Hmm.
Let's kind of pull that in a little bit.
Hmm.
They're saying there's not anything that we're gonna work on with that. There are some stagnant energies, but like we have enough other things that we're working on this time that are more priority. But they're saying that you are working on that on your own end with kind of working on with anger, or at least like the pre-work to get to it. Is what they're saying. Do you
Hmm.
have a therapist that you work with?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So you're kind of working on those themes on your own time, and there might be a point when that's something you want to move through energetically, but I believe therapists are also energy workers, many good ones, right? And they can help
Yeah.
move things through. Um, yeah, it's just been working hard. Your liver is like the little engine that could though. It's like so tired, but it's still like just like I'm gonna
Your
keep
poor liver. Yes. Yeah. So when I was very acutely ill and like we were still in the process of trying to figure out what was going on, I would get like these shooting pains in my liver.
mm,
And it was so scary because, well, any shooting pain is really scary from an
yeah.
internal organ that you can't, like, you
Yeah.
don't know what's wrong. But yeah, that was like actually probably some of the worst pain that I felt when I was very ill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like that was your body's warning system of being like something is seriously wrong.
Yeah,
I can't process anymore,
right.
right?
Yes.
And that was yeah. Yeah, they're saying like that was really the big symptom that like motivated you to be acting on things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot, but
There
yeah,
was a
yeah,
lot,
yeah,
yeah, but that was like this is immediate, shall we say.
yeah.
Um okay, so let's take a look at stomach. Yeah, stomach is complicated, right? And it's like it's kind of it's a I'm seeing some like lower digestive fire, which is interesting because like a lot of the rest of your body runs really like warm and wet, but your stomach itself like really has a hard time getting enough kind of digestive juices and enough digestive fire to really be able
Yes.
to process your food properly. So it feels
Yep.
like a lot of times you'll eat something and it just like sits in there and just gets like bloaty and uncomfortable and
Yeah, it
sludgy.
doesn't always get processed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was actually like a big thing that I was working on, or starting to like look at is because I was like, why is my food still like having trouble like getting digested? Like maybe I don't have enough stomach acid, which can also it's connected to your pancreatic enzymes
Yes.
too. So like if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have enough stomach acid, then you can't trigger your pancreas to make enzymes or secrete enzymes. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I
Yeah.
think it's probably still an issue. So like
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense with like what I was seeing with the pancreas just being that puffy energy and it's not able to kind of create the juiciness. And I'm also seeing the insides of the tissues of the stomach are just there's not as much kind of that good goop that keeps everything they're a little irritated, right? And some of that's broken down as well. And so it's just has a hard time kind of processing things through. Let me see about that. Normally for like with that warm constitution, I would normally say like raw vegetables, but raw vegetables are like way hard on you to digest a lot of times.
Mm.
So you need warm, wet, brothy things that already cooked down a whole bunch. Let me see. Do you do animal proteins at this point?
Um, I currently cannot stomach them. I'll tell you
Yeah. Okay.
later. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's I know I feels like diet is like so complicated that that's not what we should focus our energy on here today. But um yeah, and then it goes in it's irritated in the top part of the small intestine too, really all the way through. And there's a lot of like malabsorption that's happening within the intestines because
Hmm.
there's just it's not even like because a lot of times I see that with like when there's not enough, it's like it's not even that it's irritated, it's just almost like frozen is almost the way that I would put it. Is
Mm.
it's just hard having a hard time kind of just even doing its normal job.
Yeah, I've been struggling with constipation for yeah, since I got super sick. Like I have to be on something that helps me
Mhm.
get moving.
Yeah. And does that and it feels like that comes with some other things too, like what you have to have take for that. But it's what you have, right, to take. Um yeah, and just moving it through. You're good about drinking your water. I'm seeing that you're getting trying to stay as hydrated as possible. Um, one thing I do often recommend that's an Ayurvedic remedy is adding a little natural sea salt to your nat water because it helps to kind of allow the cells to plump up. But again, salts I know can be complicated with various things. So at your
Mhm.
discretion with that.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, they're saying really this is like all these things going in your digestion are really systemic to all the other things that are, it's not localized to that. But I will say that digestion is really tied into our worry, the emotions of worry and anxiety. And so it's almost like you're not necessarily, aside from the adrenals, you're not necessarily like an anxious person, but this creates anxiety in your body because of not being able to process all of these things properly, right? And so
Yeah.
it's almost like it creates this artificial version of anxiety that isn't totally your natural state. Does this make
Yeah.
sense?
I
Yeah.
mean, the illness itself like had a huge effect on my mental illness. It
Mm-hmm.
was really scary.
Yeah. Um, okay. Let me like take a look into some other because we're coming. I want to make sure we have enough time for all the releases that we're going to. So let me take a look at. I do see you have a really strong hips, which tells me that you have a lot of fortitude and you have a lot of understanding about who you are as a person, which is really great. Especially probably through all of these trials, you like get to know yourself really well in a lot of ways, right? Um, and they're showing me in reproductive that just like kind of all the things that are going on has made that very variable as well for you, like with
Yeah.
yeah, just things are, it's not regular, it's like light on the lighter side and then
Uh-huh.
sometimes like crazy heavy for no reason.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Like weird weird things happening that make um fertility challenging. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that it's just, and it's like really hard to predict like even when it's gonna come, when what it's gonna be like. It's like it's very different. um and I do feel like the big emotions in there around all of that as well. um yeah, so just feeling into that. Okay, I'm gonna pause here because I just want to make sure we have enough time for the releases and just check in with you if there was somewhere in particular that you want me to look at or that you want to talk more about so we can maximize our time.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I wanted to ask about my brain in
Okay.
particular.
Uh huh. Yeah. Let me take a look at that. Um, Yeah, and this is tied into kind of nervous system. And they are showing me because of that period of time where you weren't as able to like intake proteins and fats, that there is a little bit of kind of it's not as optimal in the tissues as you normally would be. And they're showing me particular kind of like the mid sections of the brain rather than like front is pretty good. Um, but it's almost like, and that's some of the like processing kind of things and the things that's connected to your body and getting the right signals from your body. Yeah. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Um, that it's like, everything's there and it works, but it's just not as functioning as it should be, right? It's not functioning optimally. And they were showing me some like brain fog that goes associated with that, and like complete like some memory stuff as well that's associated with that.
Yep.
Like walking into the room and you're like, I can't even hardly almost remember my name, let alone like what I came in here for.
Yeah,
um
sometimes. Yep.
yeah. And it's like it's very disassociative, right? They're showing me that it just feels sometimes like you're like kind of floating in stuff, which is really challenging. You say as far to do with it, yeah, a lot of it is the malabsorption and getting the fats and proteins into your body, which is kind of an overall picture and an overall challenge. Is just being able to rebuild some of those tissues up. And yeah, but it's like if you have too many fats and oils, it completely like your stomach just freaks out and can't do anything with them, right?
Mhm.
It's almost like you need to be infused in some way. That's interesting. They're talking almost about kind of like, so in a lot of Ayurvedic body work, Ayurveda uses a lot of like oils and fats in general, like that's their thing. And they have a lot of, so like they have a lot of treatments where they're like doing a full body oilination and like kind of like rubbing it into your skin. And they're talking about that as maybe a way to kind of like get it at least some layer into the tissues. And they're also talking about, there's this treatment called and it's usually for stuff related to eye, but because that system is connected, it's called a netibasti, and they basically make a little dough. You lay at a table, they make a little dough circle around your eye, and then they pour warm ghee into your eye, and it like absorbs into your eyes and like
Huh.
clears them out.
Huh.
Um, and then there's also another one they have where they basically leave on a table, and they have this like big kind of samovar type thing, but it like drips oil onto your third eye over and over again as like an
Hmm.
oil, and like and it kind of absorbs into your skin. So it's almost like finding these other ways of getting that into your tissues.
Okay.
So I don't know if where you're located, but like if you're able to look into Ayurvedic practitioners that do actual body work kind of stuff,
Yeah,
is
I will. Yeah.
yeah, to consider that as far as just getting the oils into your tissues. And it's almost like the more saturated that you can be, the more then those it can work kind of from the outside in, which is
Uh-huh.
not typical, right? Usually it's like the inside out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that
Okay.
make sense to you?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. Yeah, because it's really just like a nourishment thing more than anything I'm seeing for the brain stuff.
Hmm.
um Some of the pathogen did kind of affect the brain, but that part is healed, and it just is trying to kind of rebuild at this point.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
I mean, maybe that's true. I don't,
Yeah.
it's hard to say, you know?
Because it was like so systemic, right?
Yes.
Um, all right, great. So we'll go ahead and transition into the healing portion.
Following the assessment, we end the session with a healing where we unpack the root causes of the stagnant energies that were surfaced during the walkthrough of the body and systems. The information quickly gets very personal and detailed, so in order to maintain the privacy and anonymity of my participants, I don't share these sections on the podcast. They're also not ideal for an audio format, as they often include long stretches of silence while we work with visualizations, meditations, and other kinds of energy work. Thanks for listening to Medical Intuition Illuminated. If this episode resonated, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit. Special thanks to Derek Ryan for music. Until next time, listen deeply to the wisdom of your body.